In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, and every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our live all about olives. So you would be very surprised at just how much you can do with an olive tree, both in the kitchen and in the garden. And Chris is going to take you through everything you can do with olives, from hedging and screening to topiaries to, pickling olives, how to use them in the kitchen. Very exciting stuff. We've got quite an array here of things. We're even going to make tea with olive, which I did not know was a thing. Did not know olive tea was a thing, but we are going to show you how to make it here today and chat to you about a lot of other things. How you doing today, Chris?
Great, thanks. And olives are really interesting because they're a sort of a tree with almost a mythical history, from around the Mediterranean, and Mediterranean people love their olives. But because they've been around so long, I guess a lot of that. What I'm doing here is I'm making what we've got is dried crushed olive leaves here, and I'm making some olive tea to drink whilst I'm delivering my olive lecture. I think it's good inspiration. And olive tea is something that's been used for hundreds of years as a medicinal herb, and it's been found to be an anti-inflammatory and help with diabetes and various things. So a really very healthy product. It's got an antioxidant.
And it smells quite nice. Obviously you can't smell it over the screen, but the scent that's wafting from that tea is really quite lovely.
Yeah, and then you can drink the tea straight, but I like it with just a little bit of honey.
Just to sweeten things up.
Yeah, a little bit of honey and a squeeze of lemon, and it's really a great tea with that in it.
So what did you do to those tea leaves to get it to this point? So we went and plucked some leaves just straight off an olive tree.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. What do you do? Just pick some, and I picked the nice fresh new growth. I think it's got the best flavour. So nice fresh new growth, and pick it, dry it in the oven, not too hot, about 150 degrees, and take its time, and you dry it until it's crunchy, because you need to crunch it up to get to increase the surface area of the product, so that it makes a nice tea. That gives you plenty of flavour out of small amount, and then you need a really good a really good couple of teaspoonfuls to get the flavour and the strength out of it. So and there we have it. We have olive tea to drink whilst doing the. And anybody, I mean, these ones we picked in the street. There's lots of olive trees just planted in the street. We picked these olive leaves in the street, and anybody could make themselves some really nice, healthy and tasty olive tea.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. Yeah, if you even just look to the side, you can see some of the fresh olive leaves there, and then we have dried it in preparation for today's live. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. Let's get right into all about olive trees. If you do have any questions, please comment them below and we will answer them. So let's get into it.
Okay, so olive trees are a very hardy tree, native to the Mediterranean and North Africa, and they have sort of silvery grey foliage, and they live for hundreds of years. And so if you're travelling around the Mediterranean, you can go into old olive orchards that are hundreds of years old, and they develop tremendous. As they get older, they develop tremendous character. And one of the things that's interesting about olive trees is they're very easy to transplant. It's very easy to dig one up and move it, and so in Europe they dig up old olives out of old orchards and put them in tourist spots, and then they toperize them. They trim them into they do cloud pruning, like they trim them into cloud, and you can get some beautiful old olives. And occasionally you'll find old olive trees that are trimmed and trained even in Australia, because there are some quite old olive orchards. Now olives will grow anywhere in Victoria, and they're a very attractive tree with lots and lots of uses, and that's what I'm going to go into. First of all, I want to talk about the olive tree as a topiary, and the most popular form of topiary of olives is cloud pruning. And what happens with the cloud pruning is that you get the olive tree and you trim the branches back, and then you trim and have beautiful round tufts of foliage on the ends of the branches, and you can make some really beautiful shapes. And particularly if you get an older olive tree, and sometimes when I'm doing garden designs and I find someone's got an old scrappy looking olive tree, I get them to cut it back and turn it into a nice topiary, and you can turn an old scrappy olive tree into a really beautiful centerpiece. So your cloud pruned olives make just a magnificent. Your cloud pruned olive makes an absolute magnificent sort of centerpiece in a garden.
And we're actually going to have a video coming out soon showing just that, a cloud pruned olive tree. I mean, you can see a picture up there right now if you're on YouTube, Instagram, or X. Also, we do just have a question that I quickly want to ask, Chris, before we keep going. So Lisa Marie asks, can you buy any small olive trees that can grow in a pot, as I only have concrete in the backyard?
Yes. Yeah, and that's I'll be talking about olives in pots, and and that's the great thing about the olive. They're beautiful, they develop character, and you can grow them indoors. You can have them as a pot plant on the patio. They're really hardy, really versatile, and so olive trees have applications for many people.
Great, Lisa. So yeah, keep watching. You can grow it in a pot and just find out all the things you can do with that olive tree in a pot.
Yeah. Now, one of the things I'll be talking about later is that the olive tree is quite good near the beach, and the video that we've got coming out shortly about a cloud pruned olive was taken right on the beach. It was absolute beachfront property, and the olive was thriving as a beautiful cloud pruned topiary. It was a lovely old olive that had been trimmed up, but the thing about it is not only do they do well on the beach, but a lot of people who are not even on the beach ask me to design coastal style gardens. And one of my favourite feature plants or centerpieces for a coastal garden would be to put an olive there and have it cloud pruned. And the thing is that cloud pruning an olive can be fun. It could be like a hobby. And although a cloud pruned olive can be terribly expensive, and not everyone would want to spend that much money on a feature plant, the thing is that you can have fun and buy just an ordinary olive and cloud prune it yourself, and it happens quite quickly, and it could be a bit of a fun bit of hobby for you to trim up and cloud prune your own olive. But they have quite a good application in your coastal, as a topiary or cloud prune. They have quite a good application in your sort of coastal style garden. But really, I drive past as you go through the tunnel heading towards the airport, as you go through the big tunnel in Melbourne, as you come out on the left-hand side, a couple of hundred metres up, there's a building, and it's got beautiful old olives that have obviously been dug out of an orchard and cloud pruned, and all around the top top floor of the building where all the penthouses are, you've got maybe 20 or 30 beautiful big cloud pruned olives that anybody going through the tunnel and looking out to the left will see them. They look absolutely fantastic. It's a bit hard to park and take a photo, but when you're speeding along on the freeway there, but that's where anybody could see beautiful cloud pruned olives. And so your cloud pruned olives can be, and that's a very windy exposed spot, and they can be put in difficult sites, windy exposed spots, and make a magnificent artistic feature in a very, very difficult site where you say wouldn't grow a beautiful Japanese maple or something like that.
Hey,
And
Chris, just got a question from Ken. Can we grow a small olive tree in a south-facing area?
you'd want to to get it growing good and doing well, you'd want at least half a day's sun.
Okay. All right. So you need at least half a day's sun, Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. Yeah, if you have any questions, comment below.
Yeah. The other way that's commonly done, and it's more traditional Mediterranean, and it's a way of getting that formal feel with a Mediterranean look, is your standard olive, and that's where you've got just a single ball on a straight stem. That's much easier to do. Often you'll find in nurseries, you'll find lovely tall straight olives, and if you buy a lovely tall straight olive tree, you can trim up the bottom branches and trim the top up into a nice round ball, and very quickly make your own sort of ball on a stick. And if you plant them at the entrance of a court, if you were to plant that at the entrance of a courtyard, if you planted it at the entrance of the courtyard, you could have a sort of Mediterranean and formal look all in one. So that's where your standard olive comes in, and your standard olive is great. Like if you had a very hot sunny courtyard where other things tended to frizzle and fry a little, your standard olive is going to do really well in a hot and difficult site. And then lots and lots of people ask me about growing an indoor olive, and with my liaison over the years with various customers, I've never bought one indoors myself, but what I found is that they last quite a good while indoors, and then they seem to hit the skids. They go on a decline, which you would imagine a tree that's used to living outdoors, inside, without normal sun and air, would eventually hit the skids. But I believe that anybody, and I've had a few restaurateurs and things like that who've wanted to have an indoor olive to give them that Mediterranean feel inside the shop. And so what I've said to them, I said, look, buy two exactly the same and rotate them. And if you were to rotate them on a 7 or 10 day turnaround, they wouldn't even know they were indoors, and you can have them out in the sun, well watered and fertilised for half the time, and you find that your olive tree won't hit the skid. So you can you use olives as an indoor plant? Well, yes, but you've got to be a bit cunning about it and have two and rotate them. Now,
just going back to the question from Ken asking about the south facing for an olive tree, is west and south facing okay?
Yeah, you're going to get a bit of afternoon sun there. Yeah.
Okay, yep, you're going to get a bit of afternoon sun there, Ken. Great. All right, let's keep going.
Right. Now, the next thing is that we talked about olives as a pot plant. Now, olives are fabulous as a pot plant. A lot of evergreens, or a lot of trees in pots tend to defoliate, get spotty leaves, do all sorts of things. But an olive, the main thing with an olive is an olive has grows, where they grow in the Mediterranean, they tend to grow naturally in limestone country, and they love their lime. And what happens with potting mix, the lime is water soluble, and within 12 months of putting the best potting mix in, you find that the calcium will be gone, long gone. And so what you need to do is you need to, if you're growing them in a pot once or twice a year, give them a really good dose of dolomite lime, and that will keep the calcium up to it. And then with a little bit of fertiliser, regular watering, you can keep a pot in an olive for as long as you like. Now there's different styles. The first style would be a natural olive, and that's where you just put in a nice bushy olive and just let it get bushier and bushier and bushier. And then I guess the next thing would be a mock natural olive, and that would be where you've put in an olive, but you've trimmed it cleverly and you've caused it to become quite dense and bushy, but kept a sort of a semi-natural shape. And that natural olive, that sort of semi-natural olive would be probably, you know, one of the nicest looking olives you could have, lovely and thick and bushy. And it's the sort of thing that you could put on a rooftop that was windy and exposed, a hot sunny courtyard or a difficult to expose site. That would do really, really well. And then if you needed a fabulous feature, you could go for a cloud pruned olive in a really, really big pot. And then if you wanted to have, then you might go for, to get that formal look, you might go for just a ball on a stick standard olive in a pot, and that could look really, you know, classical, very Mediterranean, particularly if you went for a terracotta pot with a little bit of the ornamentation on it, you know, like grapes or, you know, some, you know, vine leaves or something like that. One of those very ornamental terracotta pots could look really, really great. So basically, you can use, they do very well in a pot, but keep the lime up to them, keep the water up to them, and keep the fertilizer up to them, and they'll take a pounding from wind and sun and everything else if you look after them. So great pot plant. But let's talk about.
Can we just quickly ask another question? All the olive questions we're going to try and ask as we go along, but if there are any other unrelated olive tree questions, we'll try and answer them at the end. But we do actually do a live Q&A every Monday, 12 p.m. that's dedicated to all your gardening questions. So we're just going to ask a question from Kiki. Can you grow olive trees in the Kilwa Valley, Victoria, or do they have to grow on hillsides?
No, you can, olives, you won't, if it's a swampy, like a swampy hollow, you'll be in trouble, but olives are great on the flat. Like there's a really, just as you're driving out, there's a massive olive orchard on quite low country as you're on your left as you're heading towards Gippsland and coming out of Pakenham. There's a big olive there on the flats, olive orchard. They're doing really, really well on quite flat country. So they don't have to be up on the hillsides. I think that in the Mediterranean, the land is so heavily farmed that olives will grow on the hillside and vegetables and other things not so well. So what tends to happen is that the farmer uses what he considers his less valuable land for olives and for grazing on the hillside, and uses the flat land for his more intensive agriculture.
Okay, great. I hope that helps, Kiki. Let's keep going.
Right, okay, so let's talk about olives in the landscape, and what I'll talk about is olives in the garden. And olives have quite a few applications in the garden. I won't talk any more about cloud pruned olives, but and I mean that can make a wonderful specimen in the garden. But an olive tree, particularly if you're wanting a smallish evergreen tree and you love a bit of silver grey, just a natural olive, maybe with a light pruning, you know, to expose some of the bottom branches nicely, but just a natural olive tree can make a beautiful feature tree in the garden. But there's other applications for olives in the garden. There's up on the screen there for people who are seeing the photos. You've got your pleached olive. Now, what's really popular for smallish gardens and for very elegant gardens, a lot of people are pleaching hedges, and what they do is they trim up the bottom branches and then cut the top of it into a sort of a nice, neat, so it's basically a hedge on a stick. That it would be a simple way of describing pleaching, and that's very, very popular, and it's great because what it allows you to do is it allows you to plant something underneath, you know, and it gives you like a two-story effect, and in a confined courtyard or a confined small backyard, that two-story effect can be great. And olives are hardy, long-lived and great plants to pleach and have that beautiful silver grey foliage. Or you can just plant olives as a hedge. And what it is, on this particular show, I'm just really talking about applications of olives and olive products. And I won't be talking about different varieties of olives, but I'm going to be doing a follow-up perhaps next week, where I'm going to talk about different varieties of olives. And for hedging, we've got olives that don't produce fruit, and we've got olives that go taller and narrower, and we've got olives with special foliage that look particularly attractive in hedges. So whether you're hedging or pleaching, I'll be talking in the future about which olives to choose. But I'm not going to go into that today. I'm just really going to talk about applications. So you've got your pleached hedge, then you've got your plain hedge or screen, and then you've got your very tall screen, and then you've even got your avenue. Olives are big enough to do a beautiful avenue up a driveway, or up a walkway or something like that. So great for that. And then you can even use olives as a windbreak or a large tree line. And I think olives have a great application on farms. Like a lot of people plant trees that are, like cypress trees, which really don't give you that much. They look fantastic, but they don't give you that much. If you were to plant olive trees on your farm, you could be getting olives. You could, and then in times of drought, when the grass, like when it's hot and dry, your grass shrivels up and dies and turns golden. If you were to have olive trees for thousands of years in the Mediterranean, when there was a shortage of fodder for goats, sheep, and cattle, people would trim their olive trees, because olive trees have a deep root system. They don't dry up during a drought, and so they trim their olives, and they'd feed the foliage to their sheep and cattle, and the foliage is very, very nutritious. And at a time when they're really hungry, they can eat sort of dry hay, but a bit of some olive branches. So large planting of olive trees in form. The olive trees make beautiful evergreen shelter for stock. They're very, very hardy. They're very long lived, and you can trim them and keep your stock alive during tough times. So planting large tree lines and avenues and shelter areas for cattle and sheep has the triple benefit. You've got olives, and then you've got your trimmings as a backup food source during tough times.
That's pretty incredible. Could we just quickly dot point for any new people that have come in, just all of the applications we've talked about just now, Chris, for olive trees?
Okay, so first of all, there's cloud pruning and topiarizing them, sort of turning them into sort of sculptural pieces of art. Then there's making the formal garden with the ball on a stick olive. Then there's, can you grow an olive indoors? I've covered that. And then there's olives as a pot plant, and how as a pot plant they can go on the top of a building in a windswept spot. They can go in really hot sunny courtyards. So basically, as a pot plant, they're beautiful, but they're very, very tough. And particularly they'd have a great application in where hotels and motels and things like that, where people have got tough situations and not a lot of time to look after them, but need something that looks great. Then I've talked about them in the landscape, how you can use them as a feature tree, as a pleached hedge, as a normal hedge, and then we're just talking about using them as avenues and shelter belts and in agricultural situations.
Amazing. And just before we head into the next segment, we got a question from Jay Kashan. Is small olive plant frost tolerant?
Yes.
Great. All right, let's dive into the next section.
Right. Okay, so from here, I'll have to confess I've never pickled an olive, but when I was when I was doing my research for this talk, I was amazed. I went on the internet and I read up on how to pickle an olive, and all you need is salt and water and olives and normal kitchen stuff. And I would say that anybody could pickle an olive, and it seems really, really easy, and I love pickled olives on my pizza. And if you go on, we're going to publish an article and we'll have the instructions. I won't go into detail the instruction to pickle the olives, other than to say that anybody could do it. It's really, really unbelievable. I thought it'd be sort of technical and you might need a degree to do it, because they taste so great. I didn't believe it would be so easy. So very, very easy. And you need a jar. You need a couple of jars. So you need some jars with lids. You need water and you need salt and a quick little reed, and anybody could be pickling olives like a professional. Then the other thing I couldn't believe is how easy. I imagined that you'd need a giant factory with giant presses and a university degree to make oil, but people have been making oil sort of at a village level in the cottages for years and years and years, and I don't know if you could compete on price if you produce the olive oil in your kitchen, whether you could compete on price with the stuff from the shop, but you could make, and actually I have to tell you this, I was buying roses over in Adelaide, and the people that grow most of the roses in Australia are grown in Adelaide, and the people that grow them are nearly all Greeks, and they all have olive trees as well as roses on their place. And I was buying roses and I was visiting a house and picking up a load of roses with my truck, and I commented on this little olive tree that they had in the backyard, and they said, "Well, look, we produce enough olive oil for the whole family from this one tree." And I said, wow, that's fantastic. And they said, it's really nice oil. And they gave me a little tiny Coke bottle, a washed up, cleaned up Coke bottle with a lid on it. And I took it home. And do you know, it's some of the nicest olive oil I've ever had. So homemade olive oil, I've never made olive oil myself, but homemade olive oil tastes fabulous. And you know exactly what's in it. And you wouldn't need very many, you know, you might only need 1 or 2 trees to produce enough oil for a family. And then reading up on how to make olive oil, and we'll publish how to do that with our article, anybody could make olive oil, and anybody could make it in their kitchen without buying any special equipment to do it. So it's a thing that anybody could do easily. Anybody could make their olive oil, and anybody could pickle their olives. But the other thing is occasionally I've seen ads for pills where people recommended olive extract, olive leaf extract, not olive oil but olive leaf extract is really, really good for you, and people can take it to improve their health. Anyway, so I read up on that, and what I found out is that for hundreds of years in the Mediterranean, people have been making olive leaf tea. And I read up on how to make that, and really anybody can make that. Or you just go and pick some leaves from your olive tree. And I don't have an olive tree at my house, so I went and picked some leaves in a street where they've been planted as a street tree, and you dry it in the oven, crush it up like tea leaves. That's it there. Just like tea leaves, just like you crush it up, you dry it. It didn't take very long. It took me about half an hour to dry it in the oven. I didn't do it real hot, and because I didn't want to lose the flavour or burn it. So dry it in the oven. Dry it to where it's sort of easy to crush it in your hands, and then put it in and make. And this is olive tea that I'm drinking here, and it's very pleasant. And what they say about it is it's got an antioxidant in it. It's a unique antioxidant that's unique to olives, and that it's been used for. And the people have found that it has an anti-inflammatory effect, and it's good for sort of heart problems and diabetes and other things. So you don't have to buy fancy pills. You can make a very nice, tasty olive tea, and like you can drink it straight. But I love it with a bit of lemon juice and honey. But I could easily drink it straight as well. It's not too sour or too anything. It's a very, very mild flavour, and I find the lemon juice and honey lifts it a little bit. But you could just drink it straight, and I think it could be very, very healthy. So. And then last of all, there's the other thing is that trimmings being good for animal fodder. So in an agricultural situation, people could plant large amounts of olives, and they can trim the branches and feed it to sheep, goats, not many people have goats, and cattle. So and I would imagine that mixed with a bit of hay, it would be really, really great fodder to sort of help take your animals through a hot, dry summer. So that's really all the products of olives. So you've got all of those products. So they're a very, very useful tree. And what's interesting is that and this will be the next segment that I do, I'll be talking about which olive. So if you want a taller olive to do a tall screen, if you want a very strong grower to make an avenue, if you want a multi-purpose olive that you could mass plant on a farm and use for fodder and for olives, we'll work out which variety. We'll talk a little bit in the next one about cross-pollination, and what I'm going to do a bit of research on. I'll be talking to a few olive growers, but one thing that interests me, because a lot of olives do enjoy a bit of cross-pollination, I want to find what is lots and lots of people with small backyards would love an olive, but they don't want to have 2 or 3 olives. So I'm going to find out which is the very best variety to singularly produce plenty of olives. So I think that would be a really interesting question that I'll be answering at my next live on olives. So basically, we'll be talking about the mechanics of selecting and planting and having olive trees flourish, rather than the applications and uses of olives. So this was really just applications and uses of olives. Next will be how to do it, how to choose the right olive and get the right result with your olive.
Very
So-
exciting. Yes, this is just part one, and we are going to do another live. At the moment, we haven't set a date yet, but if you follow us on any socials, we will post once we've booked in that time, just because Chris wants to chat to those olive growers and make sure that everything we say is well informed and well researched. So just keep an eye on our socials and we will post about when that is, but we will also be coming out with an article. We do have an article out at the moment on the website called "After Reading This, You'll Be Obsessed with Olive Trees." And I think the title is quite accurate because, olive trees, there's just so much to them, as you learnt today. We are going to now answer a couple questions. So if you had any questions just as you were watching, comment them below and we'll answer them in live time. Our first question is from Ken. How long does it take to get olive to fruit?
Okay, it's interesting. I actually know a bit about that. There's a company called Olives Australia, and they have a nursery where they produce olives for commercial plantations. And what they do is that they go into their commercial plantations and they collect the olive cuttings from sexually mature trees and propagate sexually mature trees. And I've seen olives at their nursery that were this big and covered in fruit. So basically, it depends on when you grow olives from young. But most people who grow olives, they grow the olive from a cutting or a graft from a young juvenile tree because it's easier to do, and then they can take 3 or 4 or 5 years to produce good crops of olives. But Olives Australia actually produce trees that'll produce olives within months of being propagated. So you can do it very, very quickly depending on how it's propagated.
What about the olive trees that we sell here, Chris?
They're all cutting grown from juvenile ones. You'll find they're really, really strong growers, and they're going to take 3 to 5 years to produce a good crop of olives. You might get 1 or 2 crops, 1 or 2 earlier, but the advantage of that, there's 2 different schools of thought. One is that you do a sexually mature piece of wood and you grow that and you produce olives straight away, but a little tiny tree like this isn't really going to produce many olives. But the thing is that producing those olives slows the growth of the tree. So although it's kind of cute and a novelty, whereas the ones that we sell have all been grown from juvenile, non-sexually mature branches, and those olive trees grow big and quick and freely. They grow much more freely than the sexually mature olive, and then when they do sexually mature, they'll produce a lot more olives. So you're waiting a bit longer, but you're going to get more olives more quickly from the tree that doesn't produce olives straight away.
Great. All right, next question is from No Music, No Life. Hi Chris, what are the best producing olives for pots in a courtyard with only partial sun?
The partial sun's the problem. With partial sun, it's going to be hard to get a really good crop of olives because they love the hot sun. But I'll be going into the best ones, and I'd imagine just right off the top of my head, something like a Paragon would be a good olive for that situation, and that's an olive that's good for oil or for the table.
Awesome. And we got a question from Grace. How do you grow them? How do you grow olive trees?
Olive trees could be grown from seed, but not many people do that because you can't guarantee the quality or volume of fruit. And then olive trees, often some of the more trickier varieties are grafted, but they're normally a little bit expensive, a little bit hard to get. Kalamata is often grafted, but most olives are grown from cuttings, and it's probably not the sort of cutting that the average home gardener is going to be very successful with. It takes a little bit of technology and chemicals and various different things to get them to strike. So you know, if you want to very economically get one, come into the store and get a nice small one. We have quite small ones quite cheaply, yeah, it's there. So you need to get good olives and get a good result. You need a good name variety, and that would be the purchase of a grafted tree or a small cutting grown tree.
Great. All right, we're probably going to only answer, let's say, maybe 2 more questions. So get your questions in now, and we will answer them. So the second last question is going to be from Diffins. saying, I'm trying to grow rosemary from cutting. It's riddled with fungal growth on leaves. How do I get rid of it? Is it still eatable? So it's rosemary. So they're trying to grow rosemary from cuttings, and sorry, can we just flick back to it? So they're trying to grow rosemary from cuttings, and it's riddled with fungal growth on leaves, and they want to know how can they kind of get rid of that fungus, and like, can they still eat the rosemary?
Yes, if you put a fungicide on the rosemary, but what I'd be doing is now would be a good time to take rosemary cuttings. Rosemary cuttings are very, very easy to do. And why don't you go look for some nice clean rosemary? Like I've been known just to walk the streets and there could be a rosemary hanging over a fence, and you get and you could pick a few pieces and strike them yourself. And what you want to do is use a nice light sort of sandy mix with a little bit of potting mix in a nice sort of sandy mix, and put them in a spot with perhaps a little bit of morning sun and fairly shady and sheltered, and keep them moist, not soaking wet. But have a fresh crack at it with some fresh material. But if you wanted to persist with what you've got, you could use a fungicide on it, and knock the fungus off. And the rosemary that's had fungicide on it, months from now when it's grown and everything like that, would be fine to eat. So
okay.
I'd give it a few months before I'd be eating it, but certainly I'd be happy to eat something that had fungicide on it in its youth.
Yep. Yeah, Stephen says it sounds like the stock of the cutting was infected maybe. And our very lucky last question is from Stephen, saying, I know you can graft fruit trees. Can you graft a few types of olives together so one tree has maybe 3 types of olives?
I've never seen it done, and that would be a great thing to do. I believe olive trees are quite easy to graft. You could look up online how to graft them. And I think that would be a fun and interesting thing to do for somebody who has only got room for one olive tree in their yard. Why not make a triple olive?
Yeah, that'd be pretty incredible. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to round it.
And actually, when I do my next one, I'll be talking about cross-pollination. And so if the smart thing will be to do is to make a multi-olive that was very compatible with cross-pollination and get yourself nice heavy fruiting.
Yeah, sounds pretty good. All right, so we're out of time for today and we're going to round up. But if you did have any questions that weren't answered, come down to our Monday live Q&A, 12 p.m. on whatever platform you are on right now. And that's a dedicated time to just answering your questions. So we just spend the whole time just answering question after question and help out as many people as we can. And then we also do lives like this, which is more of a lecture style. We choose a particular topic, whether it's olive trees today, or we've done best plants for shady areas, we've done winter flowering, all sorts of things where we, focus on a really specific topic. So yeah, sorry if we didn't get to your questions today, but please do come to our Monday live. If you can't make that, just send us through a question, email, call, anything like that. And please spread the word. Like, we would love to get as many people as we can to these lives. We want to teach as many people about gardening, about how they can get the best garden. And we would really appreciate it if you could, tell other people about this. So we will wrap it up there. I hope the rest of your Tuesday is lovely. Thank you, Ken. I also hope your Tuesday is amazing.
Thank you. See you later.
In the morning sun, where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant, in every shade and room, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes. Design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design. Free sessions to blend within your budget line. Alright. From tiny seeds to trees so grand. Yeah. Every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello, plant. In every shade and room, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, plant. Welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow.